Striya Nasajat Bujayor Mahabhuja. Yonata Vargadim Alam Gunodata. Smita Valokena Chiracha Apohitum. I'm sorry, I should have got water earlier, but could somebody give me a cup of water, please? Sorry about that. Kasyamanaste Bhuvi Bhogi Bhogayo. Striyana Sajet Bhujayor Mahabhuja. Yonata Vargadim Alam Gunodata. Smita Valokena Characha Pohitum.
Asyamanaste Bhuvi Bhogi Bhogayo. Striyana Sajet Bujayor Mahabhuja. Yonata Vargadim Alam Grinodata. Smita Valokena Charat Yapamohitum.
Anybody else? Kasya, whose? Mana, mind. Te, your. Bhuvi, in this world. Bhogi Bhogayo, like the body of a serpent. Striya, of a woman. Na, not. Sajet, becomes attracted. Bhujayo, by the arms. Mahabhuja, Ya, one who. Anata Varga, of poor women like me. Adim, distresses of the mind. Alam, able. Grina Udta, by aggressive mercy. Smita Avalokena, by attractive smiling. Charity, travels. Apohitum, to dissipate. Translation. Almighty armed, one who in this world, Almighty armed, who in this world will not be attracted by your arms, which are just like the bodies of serpents. Actually, you relieve the distress of husbandless women like us by your attractive smile and your aggressive mercy. We think that you are traveling on the surface of the earth just to benefit us only. Please repeat, if you wish. Almighty armed, who in this world will not be attracted by your arms, which are just like the bodies of serpents. Actually, you relieve the distress of husbandless women like us by your attractive smile and your aggressive mercy. We think that you are traveling on the surface of the earth just to benefit us only. Report by Srila Prabhupada. When a husbandless woman is attacked by an aggressive man, she takes his action to be mercy. A woman is generally very much attracted by a man's long arms. A serpent's body is round and it becomes narrower and thinner at the end. The beautiful arms of a man appear to be a woman just like serpents, and she very much desires to be embraced by such arms. The word Anata Varga is very significant in this verse. Nata means husband, and A means without. A young woman who has no husband is called Anata, meaning one who is not protected. As soon as a woman attains the age of puberty, she immediately becomes very much agitated by sexual desire. It is therefore the duty of the father to get his daughter married before she attains puberty. Otherwise, she will be very much mortified by not having a husband. Anyone who satisfies her desire for sex at that age becomes a great object of satisfaction. It is a psychological fact that when a woman at the age of puberty meets a man and the man satisfies her sexually, she will love that man for the rest of her life, regardless who he is. Thus, so-called love within this material world is nothing but sexual satisfaction. Om Yantamanasya Janandra Shaga Chakshurmilitam Tasma Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Nipagaramayam Dadati Svabharantikam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Sadguru Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Translation repeated. Almighty armed, who in this world will not be attracted by your arms, which are just like the bodies of serpents. Actually, you relieve the distress of husbandless women like us by your attractive smile and your aggressive mercy. We think that you are traveling on the surface of the earth just to benefit us only. So I was completely at a loss as to how to deal with this purport for quite some time. And I read a whole chapter again to my sister with purports because I figured maybe she gives me some insights. Very well educated, knows how to discuss Brahmanically, and kind of trained that way. And wait, let me put it this way, there's a lot of issues discussed here. So, I mean, so many issues, you can just have a dissertation on each issue. So maybe I'm going to be presenting this a little bit. I'm presenting it. In summary, after going through all this and hearing other people's lectures on the same verse and so forth and so on, and seeing the big picture of the whole chapter, or at least up to this point in the chapter, we are, as Prabhupada says, all born a fool and a rascal. You know, fool number one, not two, one. I mean, we've left the spiritual world. There's no greater fools than myself, because I left the spiritual world and wanted to try to play Krishna. So, and Krishna is so merciful that he's come down in the form of Shastra, so that, and many other forms, to give us, hopefully we'll utilize our intelligence, because as Prabhupada says, you know, first class is you hear and then you learn. You don't have to experience. You have to go through this, you know, to learn. And even if you go through this, you go through it a million times and still not learn. But if you hear from the right source, we can, instead of going through it, we can experience this and then make better decisions in our life, kind of see how life is and what the goal of life is, how to attain it, so forth and so on. So this is going into, like, you know, the crux of the whole issue. The crux of the whole issue is this whole material world is running off of sex desire. That's it. Nothing. If you take away that, you got nothing. You got the spiritual world. I mean, still we have to be servants of Krishna, of course, to make it the spiritual world. So it's good to go into it and see it as it is, and then go forward. Like there's a story of, I forgot the names, of a boy that's very much protected in an ashram, no ladies, no thought of sex life, no discussion of it at all. Anybody remember the names of that person and the father that desired that because he saw, people fall away. So you remember? No? Okay. And then some gal came in the shape of boys to his ashram, in disguise as boys, and reeled him away, and he got carried away, So, but if we're discussing this in detail and become equipped with how to handle things, then we're much more inclined, much more likely for success. So, just taking time to hear Bhagavatam regularly is so critical. Prabhupada, I remember hearing somewhere Prabhupada wrote or said, Bhagavatam, you must hear Bhagavatam every day. If you don't, then you'll fall down. So if we miss our Bhagavatam class or something, take some time out to read Bhagavatam daily, hearing it or reading it daily. Critical. He also said one should be able to hear a pin drop in the class, even on top of that. So real, true, attentive hearing of Bhagavatam can save us from so much troubles. So we might want to ask the question, I would imagine if I was a lady, maybe new as a lady in Krishna consciousness and hearing such things, I'd be like, man, this is heavy-duty male chauvinism or what? But why is this being discussed so much this way? Another perspective is, who is more powerful? Is Radharani more powerful or is Krishna more powerful? Right? Who's Madana Mohana Mohini, right? Who is the attractor of the attractor, the conqueror of Cupid, So who is that? Who can conquer the conqueror of Cupid? That's Radharani. So one time Prabhupada was talking with one of his newer sannyas disciples, saying, so what do you think about the women of New York City? And it's like, oh, is this a trick question? Am I going to be tested on what that? And then Prabhupada starts going in, aren't they so beautiful? And he's talking to one of his new sannyasis. He's like, sannyasis going, I'm just going to keep quiet here. And then Prabhupada starts going, you see all these buildings? I mean, we're talking mega buildings. They are skyscrapers. They're all tons. And people are running around so fast. So there's all this. It's just done by beautiful women. Man is attracted, and they will die for that woman. They will work like anything for that woman. That's reality. So, taking a look at reality, the crux of the issue, Daiveshu gunamai mamamaya dharaya mameva padyante mayamitam tarantite. This divine energy of mine, speaking of this material energy, is difficult to overcome. Of course, it's impossible to overcome unless we surrender to Krishna. This divine energy of mine, it's difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. So Krishna is saying 7:14. So this is the issue. And but if we gain access to the scriptures, then we can question things and, be thoughtful. And then, for example, if people were to write down before their marriage ceremony, okay, a week before your marriage ceremony, just write down risk, put 2 columns, risk and reward. Just write it down. Can you imagine, the woman's going, well, I guess he could leave me and I could be pregnant, and he might become a pot smoker later, and and might become a bum, and the guy can write down, well, she's going to get old, and she might not look so good later, or whatever else they write down, And if they were to do that and just look at it and read it, maybe with a few friends, and go, well, should I get married? A lot less marriages would be taking place, right? So, just practically speaking. But when that sex desire is going strong, I'm not saying all marriages are this way, but, in general, it's more than likely like this. when that sex desire is going strong, one will do practically anything, even with somebody who has the knowledge. Now, there's many renditions of this story, but maybe all of you know this story, but maybe some of you don't. Jaimini Rishi, he's in charge of part of the Vedas. He's working with Vyasadeva directly, the author of the Vedas. And he gets to this verse stating something along the lines of, even a person with knowledge can get captivated and completely gone in mind and be totally attracted to a young woman. And he's translating this, and then he gets to that point, he refuses to translate it because he doesn't believe it. Vyasadeva noted this. I'm like, okay, you're working for me, and it's your job, and you're not doing this. Well, sounds like, okay, I'm going to give you a little lesson. So that night, he takes rest, and it's a storm, and some gal is out screaming outside, "Help! Help! Please let me in. It's so cold, raining out here. Help! Help!" He's like, "No, I can't. I'm a sage. This is improper. No, please help, help, help." So finally he decides, okay, you come in here and I'll go out there and lock the door and make sure you don't let any men in at all. Make sure of that, and you're safe and protected, no matter what happens. Okay. And so he got a glimpse of the woman's face and this and that, and then he starts just contemplating. He takes rest and he's just contemplating this gal over and over again. And finally, his sex desire kicks in, and he's like, knock, knock, knock. I'm not waiting. It's me, Rishi, and Jaimini Rishi, and please let me in. Well, why? Well, because I don't know. Whatever, well, no, I'm supposed to, you told me not to open the door for anybody, and so I'm not going to do it. He finally, I've heard, convinced her to open it, or another story is he climbs to the top of the roof and gets there, and then, she's like, "What are you doing?" He says, "Well, I want to marry you, I got to marry you now." He's like, "Okay, but," and this is the story that I heard from, I don't want to say who because I might be spacing out. I don't want to give them. But anyway, there's a few renders. And so this is a story that I heard from authorized devotee in ISKCON, a huge one, a guru. And he goes, "Well, I always had a rule that whoever's going to marry me we have to do it religiously and has to get on their hands and knees and crawl to the temple with me on their back." So he's like, "Okay. Let's do it." And it's raining. It's muddy. It's raining. So he's going, and there's this gal on his back. He's thinking the whole way, and he gets to the temple, where he's gonna have the marriage ceremony. Some distance, maybe a half mile or whatever. A lot of work. And then she gets off his back, and then that was Vyasadeva appearing as a woman, and he appears as Vyasadeva, with his beard and everything. He's like, "What the heck? What's going on?" Jaimini's going, well, you ready to write that verse now? So then he writes the verse. So this is generally, not a risk and reward thing writing down. This is usually generally works this way. And so we have to recognize, though, but understand that, where does this originate from? This actually everything originates from Krishna. This Radha and Krishna are mad after each other. Well, not in a perverted way, though. Bhagavad Gita, oh God, Sri Bhagavan Uvacha 15.1, Sakam Asvatam Paharavyam, Vedavit, something like that. Yes, thank you, Prabhu. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead says that there's an imperishable banyan tree. You see a tree in the side of a lake, perishable banyan tree with its roots upwards and branches down. And the leaves are the Vedakims, the one who knows this tree is the knower of the Vedas. So where do you see a tree with the roots upward? You see it in a reflection. So there's a banyan tree on the side of a lake, and in the reflection is the upside down versions of the tree that's on the side of it. So this material was a perverted reflection. It's not just a reflection, it's a perverted reflection. So there we got love in the spiritual world. Here we have lust. So, point being here that, here's a sample of, I just heard this from my sister. She's part of a church here and nearby, and she gives classes at the church too. She's like a minister a little bit, and she's all likes this stuff though. She sees it as equal, or not necessarily equal. Maybe she sees it as superior actually, but it's the same subjects that they discuss. And she recalls this one gal, this just happened recently at her church, where this girl really wanted to marry. You could see she really wanted to and she got married. But you could tell that the loving propensity was misdirected. And she came to her, my sister was a marriage counselor for them. And so they had troubles, and it turns out just recently she just got shot by the husband, So, shot, and she's like barely alive. She might make it or might not. So that's, that loving propensity, if we don't see it through the eyes of Shastra, we'll see it through the eyes of this material dimension and we'll have lusty intelligence, basically, in summary. Lusty intelligence, as opposed to purified intelligence. And that loving propensity, all that energy will go for, in a way that it won't work out. It just simply, because you're going after the perverted reflection. It's a perverted reflection. And lust leads to so many troubles. So it's critical that the adult tries to make a solution to the problems and miseries of life, admits that he has problems, that I'm a fool and a rascal, and I need help. And everybody that has all the help states, all the people that have true success in helping others, whether it be a Christian this or a Muslim that, or a Sierra Tucson, I think you have here a big correctional facility for drugs and alcohol people and stuff. Rehabilitation center, I'm trying to say. They all say the same thing. They all admit it, that they're having success, and people that want to have success have to admit that you have to two things are required. One is you have to get in touch with a higher power, and two, you have to get a new set of friends. Every one of them admit that. And Prabhupada has given us the ideal of that, right? Krishna consciousness and associating with devotees. And if you want to be successful in the human mission, in getting free from this life of getting shot by your husband and all the rest, you have to get a higher power and get a new set of friends. So, that is an absolute critical. Sorry, isn't that heavy duty? I mean, my God, it just happened. Like, poor gal, right? So, we're dealing with this purport is hardcore, another hardcore one, right? And really, I mean, I remember the first time reading this stuff and just going, my God, okay. And, it's quite a culture shock. And really, how does it apply today? A gal is supposed to get married at 13 and have a kid? No, get married. Having a kid at 13, 14, whatever time puberty is. Having a kid at that age, is that should be the standard of society? Maybe in a village in India in 1912, I can see maybe that working. But today, I had this discussion with my sister about it. It's like, she raised 4 girls, and she couldn't even imagine such a thing. Had good arguments for it and everything, and I think the average person, very thoughtful person, would have similar type of arguments and maybe more. So I don't know what to do with this purport, other than Maybe possibly this is the ideal, and whatever, I don't know. I don't want to offend Prabhupada's writings, and I don't want to offend the ladies or anybody that's trying to provide good social, have social thoughts and civilization and transcendence. But we do know at the very bottom here, it says, well, I would like to make this comment regarding the psychological fact that when a woman at the age of puberty meets a man and the man satisfies her sexually, she will love that man for the rest of her life. Now, one thought about that isn't maybe it's not just the act, but also generally, Prabhupada states that women like children. So that man is providing, there's the bodily necessity of sex that people have, and there's also the children, providing children and protection. He's got his shotgun or whatever, and his house. Protection meaning they're not homeless. So that's a source of satisfaction. So that's, I think, how we should be reading this here. That's not just the act of sexual intercourse, it's the package that comes along with all that. Now, whether that's really the psychological fact of a woman, I don't know. Like Prabhupada's writing it here, but I thought that would help provide some understanding regarding that sentence. Also, thus the so-called love within this material world is nothing but sexual satisfaction. Now, that's fact. This perverted reflection. You got love or lust, and you can have a mix. There's always mixed devotional service. Of course, we want it to be pure. If we have utilized our intelligence properly, we want to strive for that. But there can always be a mix. There can be, a little bit of love here and there within a very perverted relationship when the person thinks about God, talks about God, and wants to have a relationship with God, maybe even if it's just a split second. So, a gross materialist could be a spiritualist for a moment, is my point. But, that is the difference between a materialist and a spiritualist. One is trying to satisfy his own senses, and one's trying to serve Krishna's senses. Difference between love and lust. So to twist all this on a whole nother note, let me go into this first. So I remember having a desire, and this will help go from here. I remember having the desire, asking myself, what do I really want? And I said, I want to fall in love. And so I pursued that. I didn't know what all that meant. And didn't have any, I read a lot of spiritual books, but not Prabhupada's books up to that point. And I remember making this spiritual advancement. And I got to a point where I started to help Mother Sandamani with, I think I was making halava or something like that for the deities or something like that. Not because I wanted it, because she's ordering me to do this. And when I started to do that, boom, this explosion went off in my heart, I remember. I remember it was right there. I was like, God knows how many years ago, 30-some years ago. And I remember feeling, and I thought, is this love? And I just knew that that's what I was looking for. So that's what I was looking for. And because I've been studying doing fasting, sometimes 10-day fasts, and just juicing, vegetarian, studying with this Siddha Guru and this other person living at the Sikh ashram, doing Kundalini every morning, trying to figure it all out, going on trips to Sedona, and looking for, wanting to fall in love, but I didn't really know what that meant. But I do know, backing up, I do know that I never felt like I was in love with a woman in my previous times. Never. I might have said I love you, but that was only for something, because if you don't say that, then you don't get what you want. That's it. Never at all felt it, but I wanted to fall in love. It wasn't there by pursuing material energy at all. Never was. And I admit that. But when I started helping this Tsunami, this explosion took place in my heart. I went, wow. And I thought, is this love? And then there was a Mataji serving her too, and she walked by, went and walked down the hallway, and I thought, my conditioning is it's her. And I followed her up into her apartment. And then when I got to her apartment, like, oh my God, they're gonna kick me out, it's gonna be horrible. So I started to split, and I did split. And I went, but on the way up, following her, I went, this is not it. I started to rationalize it. This is not it. This is not it. But out of just momentum, I ended up in her room, and then I split. Oh God. And yeah, that was not good. Don't do that at home, guys. But I was totally new. That was like the first day or something. I don't know. And then my buddy came by. Not buddy, really. My neighbor. He's an old perverted guy, actually. That, really not good guy. Was over trying to get me. But I was looking for Krishna to hug, and so I hugged him. And, it was just all misplaced energy. But just because I hadn't read any of Prabhupada's books at that point. So I felt this love, but I didn't know how I got to that point or anything. I was just making some halva and boom. So I learned, I spent years without reading Prabhupada's books, falling away from Krishna consciousness, going all over the place, doing all, looking for that and trying to get back there. But it was just there. Then I read Prabhupada's books and went, oh, I was such an idiot, It was just misplaced energy, looking for love in all the wrong places, right, as they say. So, but it's in serving Krishna. That's when I got it. And that was serving Krishna when I was helping to make the halva for Krishna. Okay, well then now after reading Prabhupada's books, I know what to do to always have that awakened. That love, real love. And so there's just a true life story of how this can actually be applied for real success, and what happens when you don't. You just chase after whatever, thinking that that's it, but it's not. And you have this feeling like it's not all the way through. But how do you hug Krishna? You got to serve him, and eventually maybe you can have such an experience, and maybe many of you have had in some levels. I remember Jivananda Prabhu here. He said in his heart or something like that, I just want to hug you, Krishna. And then he was doing deity worship at the temple in Dallas. I'm not getting the details perfectly right, but it's something like he said, I was dressing the Krishna in this and that, and some Pujari said, well, hold this. And he's got his arm over here, over his shoulder, and then, okay, connect, hold it here. And Krishna guided him, and then he realized, I'm hugging Krishna. So Krishna fulfilled his desire. So anyway, yeah. But I would like to read, to finalize all this, really something really far out, and to remember that all this stuff that the ladies don't like and the men don't like and all that, or find, whatever, where does anything originate from? It originates from Krishna. So here we can learn the pure without the perversion part of the Krishna consciousness. Okay, so here we go. So this is the CC. Now Lord Chaitanya is playing the role of Krishna. I just lost it. I wanted to give you one more, but this is where we go. So in Lord Chaitanya, the joints of his hands and legs were sometimes become separated by 8 inches, and they remain connected only by the skin. So he's in the mood of Radharani in complete ecstasy and love of Krishna. Sometimes Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's hands, legs, and head would all enter within his body, just like the withdrawn limbs of a tortoise. In this way, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to manifest wonderful ecstatic symptoms. His mind appeared vacant, and there were only There were only hopelessness and disappointment in his words. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda Jai Vidachana Jai Govinda. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to express his mind in this way. Where is the Lord of my life who is playing his flute? What shall I do now? Where shall I go to find the son of Maharaj Nanda? To whom should I speak? Who can understand my disappointment? Without the son of Nanda Maharaj, my heart is broken. In this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu always expressed bewilderment and lamented in separation from Krishna. At such times, he used to recite the shlokas from Ramananda Rai's drama known as Jagannath Vallabha Nataka. Srimati Radharani used to lament, our Krishna does not realize what we have suffered from injuries inflicted in the course of loving affairs. We are actually misused by love because love does not know where to strike and where not to strike. Even Cupid does not know of our very much weakened condition. What should I tell anyone? What should I tell anyone? No one can understand another's difficulties. Our life is actually not under our control. For youth will remain for 2 or 3 days and soon be finished. In this condition, our Creator, oh Creator, what will be our destination? Srimati Radharani spoke thus, in distress due to separation from Krishna. Oh, what shall I say of my distress? After I met Krishna, my loving propensity sprouted, but upon separating from him, I sustained a great shock, which is now continuing like the sufferings of disease. The only physician for this disease is Krishna himself, but he is not taking care of this sprouting plant of devotional service. What can I say about the behavior of Krishna? Outwardly, he is a very attractive young lover, but at heart, he is a great cheat, very expert in killing others' wives. Srimati Radharani continued lamenting about the consequences of loving Krishna. So this is pure, as pure as it gets. So, adding a little twist at the end of this class. Here you go. My dear friend, I do not understand the regulative principles given by the Creator. I love Krishna for happiness, but the result was just the opposite. I am now in an ocean of distress. It must be that now I am going to die, for my vital force no longer remains. This is my state of mind. By nature, loving affairs are very crooked. They are not entered with sufficient knowledge, nor do they consider whether a place is suitable or not, nor do they look forward to the results. By the ropes of his good qualities, Krishna, who is so unkind, has bound my neck and hands, and I am unable to get relief. In my loving affairs, where is a person named Madana? His qualities are thus. Personally, he possesses no gross body, yet he is very expert in giving pains to others. He has 5 arrows, and fixing them on his bow, he shoots them into the bodies of innocent women. Thus these women become invalids. It would be better if he took my life without hesitation, but he does not do so. He simply gives me pain. In the scriptures it is said that one person can never know the unhappiness in the mind of another. Therefore, what can I say of my dear friends, Lalita and the others? Nor can they understand the unhappiness within me. They simply try to console me, repeatedly saying, dear friend, be patient. I say, my friends, you are asking me to be patient, saying that Krishna is an ocean of mercy and that sometime in the future he will accept me. However, I must say that this will not console me. A living entity's life is very flickering and is like water on the leaf of a lotus flower. Who will live long enough to expect Krishna's mercy? A human being does not live more than 100 years. You should also consider that the youthfulness of a woman, which is the only attraction for Krishna, remains for only a few days. If you say that Krishna is an ocean of transcendental qualities and therefore must be merciful someday, I can only say that he is like fire, which attracts moths by its dazzling brightness and kills them. Such are the qualities of Krishna. By showing us his transcendental qualities, he attracts our minds, and then later, by separating from us, he drowns us in the ocean of unhappiness. In this way, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu lamented in a great ocean of sadness, unless he opened the doors of his unhappiness, forced by the waves of ecstasy. His mind wandered over transcendental mellows, and he recited another verse. My dear friends, unless I serve the transcendental form, quality, and pastimes of Sri Krishna, all my days and all my senses will become entirely useless. Now I am uselessly bearing the burden of my senses, which are like stone blocks and dried wood. I do not know how long I will be able to continue without shame. Of what use are the eyes of one who does not see the face of Krishna, which resembles the moon and is the birthplace of all beauty and the reservoir of the nectarian songs of his flute? Oh, let a thunderbolt strike his head. Why does he keep such eyes? My dear friends, please hear me. I have lost all providential strength. Without Krishna, my body, consciousness, and mind, as well as all my senses, are useless. Topics about Krishna are like waves of nectar. If such nectar does not enter one's ear, the ear is no better than the hole of a damaged conch shell. Such an ear is created for no purpose. The nectar from the lips of Lord Krishna and his transcendental qualities and characteristics surpass the taste of the essence of all nectar. And there is no fault in tasting such nectar. If one does not taste it, he should die immediately after birth, and his tongue is to be considered no better than the tongue of a frog. One's nostrils are no better than the bellows of a blacksmith if one does not smell the fragrance of Krishna's body, which is like the aroma of musk combined with that of the bluish lotus flower. Indeed, such combinations are actually defeated by the aroma of Krishna's bodies. Want me to continue a little longer? I did a lot of that. Continue? Yeah. I'll do one more. The palms of Krishna's hands and soles of his feet are so cool and pleasing that they can be compared only to the light of millions of moons. One who has touched such hands and feet has indeed tasted the effects of touchstone. If one has not touched them, his life is spoiled and his body is like iron. So here we see the real solution. We get into the mood of Radharani by serving the servant of Radharani, which is the spiritual master. And this way we develop the qualities of Radharani. And there is no other solution. There is no other solution. You cannot create or manufacture one. And this is the solution to conquer the crux of the issue that's being described by Narayana here. Thank you for tolerating me. Is there any comments or questions? We've got one back there.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for really great class. I know you questioned whether I take your words well, but I really appreciate your lucidity and candid delivery. Just a reflection on the general subject matter within this verse. So I listened to a lot of particularly Mahatma Prabhu's reflections on subject matters such as these. And that's been very helpful to me because you're right, my knee-jerk reaction is still there. And his kind of conclusion in regards to, as you were saying earlier, well, should we be encouraging women to get married in their early teenage years? That's not where we're at in society right now. As you said, perhaps there was a time when this was the ideal, but why was that? What was the crux? What was the goal? And it goes back to protection. And so we have to apply protection and the principle of that in the practical sense, as Prabhupada would say, time, place, circumstance. So where we're at right now in society, we're not necessarily, I would say we're definitely not in a place where we can encourage marriage of that sort at that age. And at the same time, we have to apply the principle and apply it to how to best enact that today. So basically, with increased kind of, as the age for marriage increases, as the age for the woman's kind of development of the woman's psyche and all of these things are changed by modernity and by time, place, circumstance, we actually have increased responsibility as women who have the agency and the autonomy to make choices around who we marry, which I think is a necessary and good thing. And as men, we basically have increased responsibility to protect ourselves and protect each other and be protected, because we're not going to get married off at 13, 14. So basically, rather than getting offended, which I still sometimes have that knee jerk, I try and remember the simplicity of as you're saying, the crux, which is protection, and just, I encourage myself and those who are kind of new reading this text to think about how can I best allow myself to be protected? How can I best protect myself as per this time, place, circumstance? And I just wanted to reflect on that. And Mahatma Prabhu does speak about this in practical terms quite often. So yes, I think it's very interesting. And I pray to rid myself of my personal knee-jerk that still exists. So thank you for your class. It was very, very nice.
Thanks for your comments. Who said it just a couple of days ago in class about how situations have been arranged in Kali Yuga so bad that when pretty much, if you want sanity and all well-being, you got to take shelter of Krishna. It's becoming really apparent. So just like the ideal king, would be, pure devotee king would be the ideal arrangement for society. But we don't have that today, so kings are abolished. We have demon crazy, democracy as being more effective than dictatorship we see in the world. So, considering all these points, but the main thing is what I'm trying to say is, but we can always take shelter of Krishna and be protected in that way. Was that Maya, or was that the prostitute that ended up just setting up under the guidance of Haridas Thakur, just setting up a thing and chanting away, and Krishna protected her. Right? It was, some thoughts there. Krishna protects. Any other comments or questions? Okay, that was all right. Thank you again for your continued wonderful advancement, Krishna consciousness, and all the advancement you made, so I can have your all nice association. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Go Premanandi.